We're going to call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Bellflower City Council. It's Monday, June 24th at 5:30 in the afternoon. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Dutton.
Here.
Councilmember Morse.
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Here.
Councilmember Santinas.
Here.
Mayor Coops.
Here. Okay, Ryan, please announce the closed session items.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council will recess to closed session for one item, conference with legal counsel, initiation of litigation. One
All right.
case.
Any recusals or conflicts?
I have a recusal.
And the reason is?
Employer.
You have none?
My employer's
Oh.
within 500 feet.
You're seeking one?
Yeah.
Mr. Dutton?
And I need to recuse myself from item 3A due to a property conflict.
Okay. So the mayor says, for the record, council members Dutton, Morse, and I are conflicted on item 3A due to property conflicts. At the regular city council meeting on October 23rd, 2023, lots were drawn to determine who would participate in the matter, and I, the mayor, was selected to participate. So that's on the record. Public comments. Is there anyone in the attendance that would like to speak? Seeing none, we will now recess to closed session. We're going to call this meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Bellflower City Council, Monday, June 24th, 2024 at 7 p.m. We're reconvening to our open session after having had our closed session where there were no reportable actions. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Dutton.
Here.
Councilmember Morse.
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Here.
Councilmember Santinas.
Here.
Mayor Coops.
Here. Tonight we'll have the invocation provided by Mayor Pro Tem Ray Dunton and Pledge of Allegiance by Jim De La Longa, Director of Economic Development. Please stand with me.
Please bow your heads. Oh, gracious God, thank you for all you do. Please bless our actions here tonight as we assist us in building a strong and caring community. May you lend us your wisdom to find solutions for the issues that come before us. We thank you for the opportunity to help others and the opportunity to try to improve our way of life here in Bellflower. We ask for your protection and blessings on our military men and women, and may they always return home safely to their families. In your name, amen.
Amen.
Please address the flag, put your right hand over your heart, and join with me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May be seated. So now we'll begin our council announcements. The City of Bellflower invites entrepreneurs and small business owners to participate in the Small Business Kiosk Program. We have an excellent opportunity available at Kiosk C, located on downtown Bellflower at Belmont Street. This program provides a platform to operate a small storefront and to contribute to the growth of pedestrian activity around our town. Apply now to be considered for this community program. For an application, visit the website at www.bellflower.org, or you can stop by City Hall on the second floor to pick up a copy. Applications are due to this Thursday, June 27th at 4 p.m. Mayor Pro Tem Wade Dutton.
Thank you, Mayor. As a reminder, the 4th of July is just around the corner, and the city encourages all property owners to take an active role in ensuring that their family members and guests on their property refrain from using illegal fireworks. 3 years ago, the city implemented a more aggressive policy to stop the discharging of the illegal fireworks. The enforcement strategy permits the Bellflower Sheriff and public safety personnel to respond to a complaint, film the discharge of the illegal fireworks, and if the person that's lighting them cannot be identified, the property owner will receive a $2,000 administrative citation. If you have any questions about the firework enforcement here in Bellflower, please call the Bellflower Sheriff's Substation at 562-925-0124. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Dutton. Councilmember Sonny Santinas.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Come join us in downtown Bellflower for great music, dancing, and exciting family fun in the next Street Fest this Thursday, June 27th. These events feature live music, food, craft, and business vendors, inflatable slides and games with Bellflower Recreation in Motion, also known as BRIM. The event begins at 6:30 p.m. and will conclude at 9:30 p.m. Entrance is free and vendor pricing will vary. For more information, please call 562-804-1424, extension 2261. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Santinas. Councilmember Wendy Morse.
Thank you, Mayor. The Bellflower Chamber of Commerce invites the businesses, service clubs, and the community to its next monthly morning mingle scheduled for tomorrow, June 25th, from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. For more information, please call the Bellflower Chamber of Commerce at 562-867-1744. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Wendy. Councilmember Victor Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Bellflower. Are you a business owner that is struggling to get website traffic that converts into sales and leads? Learn how to increase your website organics traffic from Google at the next SCORE Business Workshop this Thursday, June 27th at Ironfire, located at 17434 Bellflower Boulevard, Unit 200. The event is free and will begin at 6:30 p.m. SCORE, the Service Corps of Retired Executives, is a great business counseling resource. To register for the workshop, visit www.score.org/Long Beach. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Public comments, Mr. Smoot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the time set aside for the public to address the city council on matters not listed on the agenda. Anyone wishing to address the city council should come to the podium, be recognized by the mayor, and state your name for the record. If you wish to address the city council on an agenda item, you may do so by approaching the podium as we review that particular item. You'll be given 3 minutes to address the city council.
All right, so the floor is open. If you have a non-agenda item, please come forward and announce your name and sign the docket.
My name is Tony Veltri, and I live over by Bellflower High School. And we're having a problem with parking at the high school on the weekends. There's soccer constantly all weekend long. We can't get out on Hayford onto McNabb. It's a blind spot. Cars are parked on the curbs, they're everywhere because the high school charges $6 to park. And I don't know how they get away with that, but they do. And so nobody's parking there. So they're parking all on the street. And if you're waiting for a fatality, it's about ready to happen because we can't see to get out, and that's a problem. And I've called the sheriff's department. Oh, you can park on the curb. It doesn't matter, around the curb. I'm like, no, you can't. That's one of the problems. So I'd like to see that addressed because it's a big problem. And then there's a homeless guy in a motorhome right across on, we're on Yeri Way, right by McNabb, just west of McNabb, and he just parks there all night long, all day long, and then gets in his car and goes somewhere else, but he leaves his motorhome. So I don't know what's being done about homeless, but it's right outside the mortuary there. And then the other thing is the mail theft. I'd like to know what's being done with that. We've had a lot of people in our complex had their checks stolen and their accounts had to be closed and all that, so that's about it. So.
All right, one moment. Brian, Mr. McNerney is our acting public safety director, and I want you to meet with him out here in the foyer.
Okay.
And he's going to go over that motorhome with you.
Okay.
And I know what you're saying about the school district or whoever's running the activities
Yes.
on the weekend is charging $6. Nobody's using the parking lot. They're parking all over the neighborhood. And maybe we should have some interaction with the school district to find out what's going on there.
Yes, I didn't
Because
know
that
if I-
parking lot's underutilized and it is causing a traffic hazard.
Yeah.
And if we could look into that. And
Thank
it's,
you.
It's like every weekend
Yeah.
it's a mess.
It's every weekend. It's a
Yeah,
mess.
may I, Mayor?
Sure.
It has the mail theft. I think almost every one of us here has been hit with the same thing you're talking about. It's a federal
Yeah, I
deal.
know.
We're not that, but Wendy has the answer. Just where somebody will listen to you. Why don't you explain who to call? It's great.
You could call into the city. I've
Yeah, we've
I've
done
been a
it.
victim of the theft, and for a few accounts, and all through Bellflower
Yeah.
Post Office. But you can call the post office inspector general. Please get the live person in LA and make your report. If enough of us are making the report, we should be getting
I'll
some.
put that out to Mike.
So
'cause we
please
live-
tell your friends wherever you live around. That's what I did, and I encourage everybody to do the same. I know there's a lot of us. I've seen it also with
Yeah,
different
and
people.
we've had to close accounts, all kinds of, I
Yes.
pay
Yeah,
my
it's a
stuff
mess.
online, so I know
The-
that's dangerous too, but at least I don't have to mail
The
it, so.
Bellflower postmaster, it's a joke talking to her. The mail carriers don't like it either. The mail carriers say the same thing, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. It's sad, the employees don't even have any morale there. It's
Yeah, the
bad.
mailman or the postal carriers are great. It's
Mhm. Oh,
whatever's
yeah.
going on in
It's-
that post
It's
office.
That post office
Yes,
is,
yes.
that, everything I goes to Cerritos now.
Me too. 183rd, me
I
too.
was taking it to Lakewood, but then the mail carriers say they have problems too.
Yeah,
It's
So-
the
But
society we
we've all
live
been a
in.
victim to it.
We've all been,
Victim, and
but thank you. I appreciate that parking
Yeah.
is my main concern.
No, and we're gonna see if we can help you out on that.
Yes, thank you.
but
Thank you.
if somebody call Eyewitness News, that might help too.
Yeah. All right, next, Mr. Butts?
Yes, gentlemen, with my 3-minute nonsense. Basically, the lady's right about the high school. Sheriff's Department don't give a damn. They ain't gonna come out. They ain't gonna do nothing. Your wannabe cops you hire, they don't do nothing either. That's where I'd get rid of that little outfit. You don't need them. 'Cause it's overpaid. Now, the other part of it is the homeless that she's talking about. There are some that live out of the vans, motorhomes, whatever. Well, some of them do need some help. I think you ought to open the park up and say, this is where you can park. We'll have a dumpster there, a couple outhouses or whatever. Now you got them off the street. But it's the transient ones, the drug addict ones, that are a problem. And the sheriff's department isn't doing anything about it. They just turn their head and go the other way. So personally, I would say you got a deal on the sheriff's department tonight to talk about. I'd tell them either you're gonna do something, or we get rid of you and bring in the highway patrol, 'cause they care. But I did find out one thing with the drug addict homeless. You can get cleaned up and all that, and even take a bath, get your clothes washed and everything. All you gotta do is pay $10 a month to that damn gym. And you got access to the gym. Which I didn't even know about that till my one grandson told me, because he does remodels throughout the country for these gyms. So you got the druggies going in the gym to do whatever and sit in the air condition, drive people out of it that are there to do their own business of calisthenics or whatever, so they get sick and tired of smelling the damn characters. But the sheriff's department hasn't done nothing about the homeless. Now, there's a couple of you people know what I've been trying to do for a few years, which is coming to fruition. The 90% of you don't understand it. I've never told you about it, but this changes demographics. And if something's not done about the homeless, they're gonna go away to another place. And you can't afford to lose what I'm talking about. And Mr. Coops, you know what I'm talking about. So
Thank
thank
you,
you.
John. Anybody else like to come forward and talk to the council? Seeing none, we'll move on to the first item of consideration, item 13A, Mr. Smoot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Len's going to go ahead and give this presentation. I know he's got some consultants and some representatives from CR&R here as well.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. Before you tonight, we have a consideration to amend the existing franchise agreement with Solid Waste Management Services with CR&R and approve the notice of public hearing. So I have a slideshow presentation. I'm going to go through a little bit of the history, some of the highlights of the amendment, and than the process that we go through for the Prop 218 notice and hearing. As background, back in April 2011, the city entered into an exclusive franchise agreement with CR&R for solid waste management services. The agreement has been amended twice since that time to adjust and incorporate state mandated requirements for both recycling and organic waste programs, inclusive of the rate changes for the cost of those services. The current term of the franchise agreement is set to expire on August 31st of this year. Last August, 2023, the City Council approved and established an ad hoc subcommittee consistent of 2 council members to review and consider the city's options related to the future renewal of the franchise agreement. The committee, along with representatives from CR&R, Muni Environmental, who is the city's consultant, and city staff, have met on numerous occasions since last August, and to go through our different options with amendments and the proposed changes that we have for the third amendment to the agreement this evening. So some of the highlights of the amendment as we see in front of you this evening. CR&R is proposing a no rate increase. So this is a rate freeze on residential accounts through August 31st of 2025. So the rates they are today, they will be the same all the way through August 31st of next year. CR&R will also introduce additional cart size options. This will be the reduced sizes for 60-gallon, as well as introducing 35-gallon cart sizes, and those come at a reduced rate, and that's for residential services. There will also be rate reductions for organic collection, a reduction about 6.25%. The green waste-only bins will be at, again, reduced by 6.25%. And the manure bins ranging from anywhere between the reduction of 6.25 all the way up to a reduction of 17.93%. CR&R is proposing a rate increase in one service category, and that would be for the commercial accounts, the commercial recycle accounts that use both 2 and 3 yard bins. That rate increase is right around 15.38%. The term of the proposed amendment with CR&R would extend the existing franchise for an additional 8 years. So basically taking it through August 31st of 2032, with the option to exercise a single 2-year extension if both parties agree to. Both parties agree, then what we have in front of us is a 10-year amendment right here. So in addition to those activities, we also have the franchise fee and the infrastructure impact fee that are associated with the service. First off, for the franchise fee, beginning September 1st, the franchise fee will annually be adjusted using the percentage change of the CPI index. We're moving this to a May 31st to a May 31st calendar, so it coincides with the automatic renewal September 1st each year. So the franchise fee is essentially a reimbursement back for the city's cost executing the franchise agreement. It includes staff time, public safety time, code enforcement, going out with the street sweepers, the reviewing that we have to do for the recycle bins, the overall wear and tear on the city's roads. So that's all factored into a calculation which creates our franchise fee, which is attached to the bill in addition to CR&R's rate. Next, what we have before us is the introduction of an infrastructure impact fee. So beginning January 1st of 2025, CR&R will annually pay $200,000 to the city to be used for infrastructure improvements to the city parking lot trash enclosures, as the city is mandated to implement the 3 container collection methodology that residents and businesses are also required to do. So the source of this funding is already inclusive of the rates. It's part of the mixed source recycling material program that ends at the end of 2024. So that particular program with SB 1383 is ending out, and so that money's going to be shifted over to our mandated requirement for the 3 bins that we have to do at our parking lots in the downtown area for those customers. Similar to the franchise fee, the infrastructure impact fee will annually be adjusted on September 1st each year using the percentage change from for the CPI based on May 31st each year. Similar to franchise fee, this is also capped at 5% each year. Next, one of the highlights of the franchise agreement is an expanded abandoned item collection program. So the current agreement that we have in place requires CR&R to provide a free large pickup for customers when scheduled. CR&R, when they come in town, they additionally patrol some of our predetermined hotspot routes here in the city once or twice a week. So in addition to that service, CR&R is proposing a secondary program to establish a second service for abandoned item collection utilizing a team of 2 CR&R employees and a collection vehicle that will work 5 days per week, basically Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day, patrolling city streets and alleyways to pick up abandoned items. CR&R will place large roll-off bins at the Public Works maintenance yard for the collection of the abandoned items. So when the guys are out on the route, you know, they don't have to leave Bellflower to go down to Stanton to drop off items and come back. They'll simply be able to come here to the city yard. We'll have the bins there, drop them off, go right back out in the city. So it's going to make it a little more efficient in terms of the time that they're using on those days. At the direction of the City Council, CR&R has also agreed to provide a 3rd layer of coverage using additional staff and equipment to collect abandoned items. So if the council elected, we could go to a 3rd team with the understanding that if that's implemented, the cost of a 3rd service will be an increase to the residents. So if the council makes that decision or determination at that point in time, we've added a line item in the Prop 218 notice of what the increase would be if necessary. So the next item from the amendment, we have the collection cart replacement and the color scheme. So with this amendment, we are adamant that CR&R would replace all of our existing carts that we have out there. So we have some black-bodied ones, we have some gray-bodied ones, we have lids that are all over the place, and we thought it was important to unify the look and refresh the look of the carts. So CR&R will replace all collection carts for single-family dwellings and multifamily dwellings without bin service. CR&R will provide evidence of the order of the new carts by December 1st of this year, 24, and then they will provide us a logistic rollout plan for the distribution of the carts prior to the end of the year. The appearance of the new carts will include a black body, and the lids will be color-coded by material type, black for refuse, blue for recyclables, and green lids for organics. Collection vehicles and street sweeping equipment. So in addition to the other items we've discussed, and to ensure that the collection vehicles are in good working order, the collection vehicles shall not exceed an average 8 years of age, with no single vehicle being over a maximum of 12 years of age. So that formula, what that creates for us is a replacement scheduled over the course of this contract. So what you will see is based on the current fleet inventory that we will have 4 of the collection vehicles will be replaced in 2025, We have 3 vehicles replaced in 2027, and the vehicle will be, and we have 1 vehicle being replaced in 28. So in essence, we're going to see, as part of this amendment, 8 new collection vehicles on the road here in Bellflower. CR&R has also agreed to replace both the street sweeper and the backup street sweeper by December 31st of 2025. Additionally, we've added language in there regarding the service of the street sweeper. We do experience problems from time to time, but what we added in there is if the sweeper is over the age of 5 years old and it experiences more than 3 breakdowns in a 3-month rolling period, the city reserves the right to order that sweeper out of Bellflower and have them bring in a newer sweeper that's no less than 5 years old. Or no more than 5 years old. CR&R has also agreed to repaint the collection vehicles at least once every 5 years. Or there's also a component in there that allows the city to provide a 30-day written notice for them to implement a painting scheme, and we would work that out with them. Finally, a couple of last items, is kind of more housekeeping for CR&R. We have the billing cycle conversion for for commercial and multifamily accounts. So currently, the commercial multifamily accounts are billed in arrears. CR&R has requested that effective January 1st, we'll convert the billing system from being in the arrears to billing them in advance. What this does is it creates like almost a 1-month period where the customers would be hit with double billings. So what CR&R has agreed to do, instead of creating that financial burden on those customers, is they've agreed to roll out and issue the cost of the new service in 12 equal installments. So basically 1 payment a month for the next 12 months. So it would be interest-free. The account would be cleared at the end of the 12 months, and then they would see a reduction of whatever the amount is on their account at the end of the 12-month period as one type of service drops off, or billing drops off for the other. The last item is we have a state-mandated compost and mulch procurement issue. So the state requires the city to purchase composting and mulch, and we have a recovered organics waste product procurement target. That's how the state defines it. So in an effort for us to meet our target, we have set a lofty goal of purchasing approximately 2,000 cubic yards of compost and mulch that we would utilize in our parks, out in our public right-of-ways, some of our setback areas, wherever we can put mulch down, we're going to put it down because that's what the state's requiring us to do these days. And then, of course, we'll also utilize at our public giveaways, which we're also expanding to 4 events instead of 2 events. Again, this is a service that would be bared by the ratepayer if implemented. We've created a service category for it in the rate structure, and it'll be part of the Prop 218 process as well. So for rate comparison, we typically look at 2 different service categories. One obviously is the single-family residential single cart. We grab rates that we know of at the time from some of the surrounding cities, and we chart them out here for everybody to take a look at. So what you're seeing here is where Bellflower sits, just a little right about in the middle of the pack, a little above middle for the residential service. And then for the commercial, the most common commercial bin is a 3-yard bin that's serviced 1 time a week. Again, we're sitting in the same, pretty much the same general area. We're just a smidge over the median right here, not by a lot. So those are our comparisons related to some of our surrounding communities and what their rates are. It's hard pinpointing rates down because everyone's at some point in the time in a year either in a negotiation process. So these rates were from a couple months ago, but for the most part, they're reflective. Paramount's a little higher than what you see here, just because last month they took their item to their city council, and they have new rates that will be in effect starting July 1st of this year, so next week. And then finally, we have the Prop 218 Notice of Public Hearing. So in 2018, the City Council adopted Resolution 18-18 establishing the procedures for increasing maximum rates for solid waste collection services in accordance with the requirements, the state requirements for Proposition 218. These procedures require the City Council to approve the Prop 218 Notice of Public Hearing, which provides details for the proposed monthly rates for residents and commercial services. The notice also contains a ballot form for the customers so they can use it to either support or oppose the proposed rate adjustments. Ballots will be accepted up until the end of the public hearing. The notice must be provided at least 45 days prior to the date of the public hearing. So the intention is for the notice to be mailed out by July 12th, so it's a couple weeks. The public hearing will be scheduled for August 26th as part of the regular Bellflower City Council meeting. So that's our calendar for the notice of public hearing. We're going to format it a little differently this year. In years past, it's ended up being like 6 or 7 pages, like folded up, legal, and just a series of rates. We're going to do the 2-page notice, and we're going to post a link at the bottom of the notice where residents can go on the city's website and view the entire list of all the service categories and see what the maximum rates are as the CPI, as the Prop 218 notice will intentionally lock the rates in at a 5% cap from now in the next 5 years. So we're going to take it through 2029. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I have Jeff Tuhlhamel from Muni Environmental, the city's consultant, in the audience this evening. I also have Dan Stepanian and Crystal Denning, both from CR&R, representing CR&R. And as a team tonight, we're happy to answer any questions that the City Council may have at this point.
All right, thank you for the presentation. It's very complete, and easy to understand. If you can roll back a few, go back to that slide that indicated that there would be no increase on the current fees. Can you bring that one back? And it goes to 2025?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so at that point, is there a cap as to how much it could be increased?
So yeah, the way that the Prop 218 will notice is, or the way the rates will be established, is they'll be based on the CPI difference from May 31st to the previous May 31st. So that CPI change, that percentage, will be identified as the rate increase starting in 2025. At no point in time, given how the CPI how we've seen it fluctuate, up and down here the last couple years, at no point in time will the rate increase ever be more than 5%. So we're capping it at 5%. It's always going to be what the CPI is, with the to not exceed cap of 5%. So at the maximum rate that it could go up would be 5% in any given year.
What our expectation would be probably between 1 and 2, 1.5.
It's usually probably 2 and 3, somewhere in there. It seems to be where it's leveled off at here the last year and a half. So.
Now, we also had previously the chance that if diesel fuel or whatever, natural gas to run the trucks went up, then they were able to come back and adjust the rates for that. That's included in this?
Yeah, so we have completely gotten away from the old methodology and formulas that they used to come in, where they were taking into account fuel costs, which in years past have triggered CR&R to come back and request an extraordinary out-of-cycle rate increase. We're all in agreement the best method forward with us is just to base it off the CPI. So that was one of the major changes in this amendment, is we're getting away from those extensive formulas and just going to a rate based on CPI index for the area. So, and that seems to be in accordance with what a lot of other cities do as well right now.
All right, Mr. San Ynez, would you like any questions answered?
Can I pass for now, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Come back to me later. Okay.
Next year? No,
Next
no,
year.
no, we'll get you back.
All right, please.
Mr. Sanchez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, I'd like to thank the members on the committee that worked hard on this item. I can definitely see some of those have paid off. I'd like to compliment the abandoned item collection service that will be added. And so on that, I want to just clarify, this is an added service to the current bulky item program that we have that residents can call in and schedule. This is more proactive when it's in the middle of nowhere.
Correct. So the service that's known to our customers right now, where you can call in and schedule your
Right.
bulky item pickup, that's not changing at all. So this is in addition
Perfect.
to that. So they're going to be in town 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, driving up
Right,
and
I
down
get
all
it. I
these
just wanted
streets.
clarity that it's an
Yep.
additional service, and I wanted to put that on record.
Correct.
And highlight that, because I think that's, I know my colleagues on the committee were very adamant about that, so I want to compliment that. And then the second thing I want to compliment is on the rate reduction option. So I want to compliment that. I think giving our residents an option to, reduce their rate by going to a lower size that fits their need. I think that's a proactive way of just giving the resident options. So I want to start off with those compliments. The things that I'd like to see and like to have a conversation with my colleagues here tonight is on, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'll start off with graffiti abatement on the bins and the response time and proactiveness on that. I'd like to see graffiti bins immediately cleaned up. I know it's not CRNR's, doing, obviously. We have, in this council, taken a proactive measure in removing graffiti throughout the city. Obviously, we just recently proposed the weekend crew shift, or the weekend crew shift. I want to make the weekend crew. Night, probably put them at night work, But anyways, the weekend crew. And so I like to have that added onto this contract. I think it's important. Obviously, the bins are being seen by someone at CRNR on a weekly basis, so they should be cleaned up on a proactive and a speedy response time. And it shouldn't be till one of us calls it in or anything like that. So I just want to get this on here. The other thing I want clarification on, is I'm glad the residents on section 2 or page 2 on the proposed rate adjustments, the residential accounts not increasing. I think that's I'll give a thumbs up on that, obviously. Where do multifamilies fall in? Do they fall in under residential accounts? Do they fall in under commercial accounts?
If they're less than 4, then they'll fall under residential.
So 4 and
with no
under?
bids or-
Okay.
Yeah, 5 or more, they fall into the commercial account category.
Okay. So they would see that 15% increase then? For those of us that have a lot of apartments in our city, in the area?
Correct.
Okay, they're gonna see the 15% increase.
Correct.
Okay.
But that 15%'s offset by a reduction that you see in the organics, right? So
Okay.
that one's increasing by 15%, but the organics component, that one reduced by 6.25%. So
For multifamily
Yeah.
or commercial in
Correct.
general? Okay, so it's a bit of a, somewhat
yeah,
of a
so
wash.
in the service category for the multifamily,
Uh-huh.
you're seeing an increase in the commercial recycling bin, but you're also seeing a decrease in the organics bin.
Okay.
So
The organic, that would be the
6.25%.
So it's more of a, okay, I
Like
see. More like a 9 or 8 something. Okay, 8 and change. Okay, all right. Yeah, the 15 kind of threw me off a little, on the high end for the multifamily side, just the residents in general that
Mhm.
live in the apartments. And some of us have more of those in our district than others, so, just gotta take that into consideration. And then that's it for me. Realistically, thank you for clarifying that on the 15% increase. I already did the compliments, so we're good. So that's it. If we can add the graffiti abatement and provide some kind of a program for that, I think everything else for me looks pretty good.
Oh, that sounds
Okay.
good. So, what Victor's suggestion on making sure we're proactive on the graffiti on the bins, you're liking what he's saying, and we should support that? Sonny, you like the idea of making the bins clear?
Yeah, I'd like to hear from CRNR what's going to be the cost of doing that.
Okay, but we'll include that in the discussion. I don't want it to get forgotten.
Yeah.
I like the idea because there's something being done now in the existing contract with graffiti, but we all know it's fell a little short sometimes, and that's why you're bringing it up, and I get that. So what's different, I'd like to know when the representatives for CNR are up here to what's the difference gonna be, or.
Right, and I would almost argue that there shouldn't be a difference.
Yeah.
It's part of doing business. I mean, they have to
Yeah.
get cleaned up. They have to
Yeah.
be maintained.
Yeah.
So the question is just how
Okay.
quickly they're getting maintained.
All right, we'll get their testimony when we conclude. Wendy, would you like to ask some questions?
Yeah, I think CRNR is probably best to handle those questions when they come up. But yeah, it should be as simple as, we don't use the existing capacity of the 90 gallons. We can probably use a 60 gallon or a 35 gallon, even if it's a single person living by themselves and stuff. So I think what's just most important is I think CRNR has recognized that there is a difference in terms of need out there based on family size. So they've been very proactive in coming to us with these reduced rates and these options to include in this amendment for the customers. Yep. Yeah, I'll let them answer that one when they're going to implement those. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, that's it. Mr. Dutton?
Okay. I'd like to say that CR&R has been a pleasure to work with during this time of trying to invent new ways of trying to pick up bulky items, and trash has been done a certain way a long time, and we're just trying to think outside the box to have a better job done, and they've been great working with it. I have a question. The $200,000 annual fee that you alluded to for the for the parking infrastructure, trash enclosures in the downtown, and it says annually we'll pay $200,000, but I think Mr. Gorecki, you were alluding to there's some money in it left over from some kind of state mandate before that we're initially going to get $200,000, but the other $200,000, where does that come from?
No, that
Perpetual.
that's not. That $200,000 is already built into the rate structure as we know it, and that actual service or that service is going away at the end of 2024. So what we're doing is we're switching that income portion or that revenue portion that they're receiving from the mixed waste program over to the infrastructure program, so we can start building the proper enclosures and looking at compactors for the downtown area and the recycling requirements that were mandated to implement in our parking lots throughout Bellflower that we have.
I understand that for the public, it's automatic trash compactors. When you have a trash enclosure, you have to get electricity in it. You have to design it, and it's rebuilding the trash enclosure. So the $200,000 was built into the previous contract.
Correct.
And we're just carrying it over into the new contract.
Correct.
But we weren't getting the 200,000 before for the infrastructure.
No, it was,
It was always there?
it wasn't for infrastructure.
Oh,
it
it's for
was
something else, for
It's for
solid-
mixed waste
Mixed
processing.
waste, okay, mixed waste process. Since we don't have to do that anymore, that's built
Correct.
in, so we're gonna get an initial 200,000 on January 1st, that's kinda left over in the previous contract.
Mhm.
Put it in, and then it's gonna continue to go,
And
okay.
then each year thereafter, we'll get
Okay.
it,
It's clear now.
yeah, with the CPI kicker on it.
The 5% max, like the rates will never, not exceed 5% on the top one there in any given year. Is that for commercial also?
Yes,
So that's across the board?
that's across the board, correct.
Except for the initial increase? Because the initial increase is more than 5% on commercial.
Yeah, but we're incorporating
Okay.
that into the
Okay, then
public notice, yeah.
Once
so-
once the 218 and everything levels out and further in the next 10 years, nothing will go above
Correct.
5% for the 10 years. Okay. On the compost, bring up one of the last slides that had compost on the right.
Yep.
And that one there, okay. The service charge for the compost, that was my question. The bottom is service category for this fee has been included and proposed in the maximum rate schedule.
Correct. So we
What's the
create-
service category fee?
Well, we created basically a new line item
Uh-huh.
on the rate list, and it's just
So the bill is gonna have that, it's gonna have your trash and then the fee,
Yeah, the way
compost
you
fee?
see the rate sheets right now, for instance,
So it'll have two charges and then total on a bill.
yeah, so you can see right here where it's listed, the compost SB 1383 procurement, when implemented by the city, will be an additional 68 cents per occurrence.
Per occurrence or per billing?
Per billing,
Per
correct.
billing.
Correct.
So when a resident gets their bill, it's, you'd say it's $55. I can't think the exact number right now. It'll have 55 and whatever the fee's gonna be for your 3-card service,
Mhm.
plus another line item under it,
Yeah, when we
That's-
start
okay.
purchasing.
for the new contract.
That's actually a good question. Would you show that? That's a
Or is it
question
just
for
gonna be rolled,
CRNR to
because
find out.
everything's always been rolled into
Yeah,
one bill. I think people like, we don't want it to look like the phone bill and the electric bill. It has all those. So are we good? Or I thought you were waiting for me, or I'm waiting for
I'm
you.
sorry. I was waiting for you.
Oh, okay.
I would ask CRNR to explain how they
Okay,
would
that's
show
fine,
that in
okay.
the bill. Yeah,
Sorry.
it's, I don't know how they
Okay,
would format it. in
I'm
the
gonna
bill.
moving on. Yeah, I was fine. I just thought you were gonna add something. I thought you were looking for something on the computer. But anyway, on the 218 notice, the Prop 218 notice, is there gonna be one notice going out? We're gonna be doing that between now and August 1st. And is it gonna be that 218 notice covering the whole contract for the next 10 years?
No, the Prop 218 will be for 5 years.
For 5 years,
For
okay.
5 years. It
Okay.
will establish the maximum rates that we can charge. First off, it will establish the new rates that we see here tonight.
Mhm,
Both
right.
the reduction, the categories that saw a reduction, as well as the commercial that saw an increase.
Mhm.
So it's going to establish all those to be implemented on September 1st. And then moving forward, each year on September 1st, it'll be adjusted by the CPI index with a max cap of 5%. The reason we cap it at 5% is it's hard to predict
hard-
what the
right, no, I get
CPI
that.
is and stuff. But what we'll do is we'll show it for the next 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 5 years, this is a contract that's 8-year with 1 2-year, but the contract is an 8-year with 1 2-year, right?
8-year with 1 2-year.
But we're only gonna do 5 years on the 218.
You can only do maximum 5
Oh,
years.
but no, that's okay, that's a state thing then.
Correct,
Probably-
yes.
Okay, there, that answers my question.
There we go.
I'm just seeing what we're covering here.
And Mr. Mayor, we
Yes.
should be clear that what we're asking for tonight is not to approve the rates. You're authorizing us to release and start that
Right.
218
No, I get
process,
that.
just to be clear.
That's all my questions, Mayor.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Santinez, are you ready?
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to pass the first time and not having me wait for a year to ask my questions.
Pent-up demand.
I know. I was gathering my thoughts earlier. So anyway, first I want to thank the subcommittee for their work on this. First, right off the bat, I really like the first year no increase. That's really good. And as an avid gardener, I like the 2,000 cubic yards of compost. That means I was reading the contract's going to be, instead of twice a year, you're going to give out compost four times a
Four
year.
times a year.
Okay, that's good. I like that. And also, I like the change in the rates instead of the convoluted process before, factoring the fuel, the tipping fee, all these things. I think we had to hire a consultant before to verify the rates. So now it's going to be clean, CPI based, and I'm sure that staff can easily do it. So all right, good. So on the rates, Mr. Goreki, can you show that again?
The comparison?
The standard, the last chart, what's this, page 23 of the
Oh.
staff report. There you go, that one.
Yep.
So in the current contract, if I recall correctly, the seniors get the 35 gallons, correct? All right, and then what size of container would the low income get? Will they get the 95, 65? Do we know?
They can get either size. So, yeah, they'll be available to get either size.
Okay, so they're not limited. Oh, they
Correct.
can choose. Okay, good. That's good. Thanks for that. All right, and then on the Prop 218, I'm a very optimistic person. So, but in the unlikely event it fails, what would be the rate that we can charge? Do we know?
Well, currently, if
Will it stay at the current rate?
it would stay at the current rate because we've exercised our
So we're at the cap right now.
yeah, we're at the cap right now. We've exercised our right to go on a month-to-month if this somehow went beyond
Okay.
August 31st. So those rates would stay together, and then we probably have to start the process all over
Yeah,
again.
okay.
Yeah.
I know that I'm involved in the vector, not related to this, just for FYI. I'm in the board of the Vector Control District. I think Santa Clarita, not Lancaster. They failed on their Prop 218, and they ended up selling their assets to the Vector Control District. So that's a consequence of failing the 218. So just FYI. My next question here is, what's the reason, maybe I can save the question later on. What's the reason for asking for advanced billing for commercial instead of retroactive billing? I just want to know. Maybe Sierra can answer the
Yeah,
question later on.
I would defer that off to
Yeah, okay.
CR&R.
All right. And then one of the complaints that I've been getting from residents is on people living on a cul-de-sac. Sometimes the street sweeper doesn't get to the edge of the cul-de-sac.
Yep.
Is there anything we can do about it?
Physically, no. We just have some cul-de-sacs that don't have a big enough turning radius for the machines that they have nowadays to thoroughly clean it right up against the curb. In those locations, the CR&R drivers will get out. They can brush and broom the debris against the curb face and bring it further out closer to where the sweeper will be rolling through. And then the sweeper can get it that way. But
So
there's
is that the expectation of the sweeper?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and so like I said, we have some locations here. The drivers are, the CR&R drivers are very familiar with where they're at. You know, we have a couple dead-end streets that don't even necessarily have a cul-de-sac. It just, the street's 40 feet wide and it just
Oh, I can
terminates.
understand that. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
Mhm.
we just have locations. The new bulb outs that we're doing, the pedestrian improvement bulb outs, we've done some on Alondra. We've also have a couple down there on Bellflower Boulevard. Those are kind of creating a small pocket where we're going to have the drivers start addressing those in the future, just so they're cleaned a little better and a little tighter.
Okay,
So,
so the main thing is it's an expectation of the driver to go down the truck and then basically sweep the cul-de-sac.
yes,
or the-
and that's actually written in the franchise agreement.
Oh, it's
currently.
there, okay.
Yes.
All right,
yeah.
that's good, thank you.
That's actually currently in
All
there.
right, good. And I know in the old contracts, maybe not on the current contract, we get some kind of credit for recyclables. Do we still get that?
You see I mean, I'm not so sure that you see credits anymore. You know,
So we're not gonna get
yeah,
it?
we have the different funds that come to us
Mhm.
through from AB 939 funds to the 1383 funds. There's not necessarily the world of credits and credits against your tonnages.
Mhm.
It's kind of shifted away from that model.
Okay, so we're not doing that anymore?
Not to the extent that it used to be.
Okay, all right, good. And then, all right. And I also want to discuss about the action we have taken in the last meeting where we approved the weekend crew for bulky items and graffiti. And reading the agreement today, it kind of caught my attention in terms of I'm trying to kind of say it very carefully. Are we creating the expectation that Bellflower will be a dumping ground of bulky items? Because the word gets out that Bellflower will take care of bulky items if we drop them off, especially in no man's land, basically along the freeway, where there's no homes against the freeway. It's gonna be free for all, especially if we add one more crew to pick them up during the week. Are we basically encouraging people to dump their stuff? Because it's very hard to they're not in front of the homes, okay? They're back against the freeway. And so no one is watching that. So what I'd like to ask is if we can increase our enforcement, because I know we have some kind of enforcement, especially for multi-family homes, apartments, in terms of if they leave their bulky items in front, there's code enforcement, writing citations. I'd like to ask staff if we can do that. Again, we're providing the service. Again, I want to make sure that we're not attracting, especially out-of-towners, contractors, dumping their stuff against the freeway.
May I interject?
Sure, absolutely.
I agree with you 100%, but I think we're there. It's the broken window syndrome. You got one broken window, you're gonna have two. Right now, there is junk under every 91 underpass, Ardmore here, that's the dumping grounds underneath the underpasses, because it's dark. Certain alleys, we all know that at certain places, I think we're there. If we can get it cleaned up, my hope is to get it cleaned up in a way that people, well, yeah, nobody dumps here, so it's, we're not gonna dump here, we'll go to another city. Maybe that's gonna work. I don't know what the fix is, but I get what your point. I would like to see, and maybe staff work on some kind of an administrative type of citation problem to
Like the
major.
fireworks.
We know there's a major problem with certain multifamily apartments. The first of the month, it's always out there. But we're all on the same page, I
Right.
believe. There's gotta be a better way, but, clean it up now and it's gonna be a perpetual, put it out.
Oh, that's why I said,
It disappears.
I totally agree with the action we took in the last meeting. That's a good step. But again, taking this extra step now, I don't want to create a dependence on us, the city cleaning up this area where people are dumping their stuff. That's one thing. And also, if I may suggest here, there is a provision also for us to be able to call in a third bulky item crew, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if that were the case, I'd like to consider replacing our weekend crew for that, so that our weekend crew can do something else. Because that will be another 5 days, right?
Right.
Because right now we have the regular crew, CRNR, doing their bulky item pickup. We're gonna add one more crew 5 days a week, and we have the option to add one more crew. At the point that we're gonna be adding the third bulky item crew, I want to consider taking off our staff that we approved last meeting and then have them do something else. Okay, so I just want to put it on the record.
Yeah, just so you know that the conversation came up, what are we gonna do on the weekends? Right now, we discussed a crew Monday through Friday, and in the dialogue, it was stated that maybe we can go, a Saturday, whatever, that would help.
Right,
You know,
right.
especially when you have a holiday on a Monday, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have that or whatnot, but there's that potential, and we can talk to CRNR
Yeah.
when they come
Well,
up here.
especially if we have the two crews from CRNR
Mhm.
implemented, then one crew can work on Saturday, one crew can work on Sunday.
Yeah.
And
But
split-
that other
split-
crew,
split the weekend.
yeah,
I
we don't
get
know if
that.
we need the other crew, but we'll see. That other crew's gonna come at cost to the.
Right, exactly. I get
residents,
that,
yeah.
yeah. That's why I said, when we trigger that third crew,
Yeah.
I'd like to consider
Trigger the
relieving-
second crew.
relieving our staff.
It's only
So-
it's only designed for one more crew. We have an initial two-man crew in a truck.
The regular is the.
You're talking about the city?
No,
Oh.
CRNR. Right now, they have the regular CRNR crew doing the bulky item pickup during the week when you call in.
Oh, when you call in, okay,
That's the
that's
first
where
crew,
you're getting
right?
the three, okay, got
That's
it.
the first crew, right?
Yeah, first crew, okay.
And then the second crew is 5 days a
Okay,
week.
now I understand,
Now, the third crew, when we triggered that, I'd like to,
Yeah.
conversation with
Right.
our staff. Okay. All right. Okay, I think that's all I have for now. Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So you see we've developed some questions here, and I'd like to invite forward CRNR, Crystal, whoever wants to handle some of these questions. And we'll start off with the three initial ones, which were the one that was presented by Victor about keeping the graffiti off of the bins, and then the two having to do with changing the size of your container. When would that be accomplished, and how is it done? So let's start with those three, and then we'll work from there.
Okay. In terms of graffiti abatement, the contract currently does have that available. I'd have to look at specifically what the timing is, so if that's something we can take a look at. Understanding, it sounds like the concern is when that occurs and the timing from our end. That's one of the things we're continually reviewing with the drivers as well to make us aware if it's occurring. Certainly, we don't want to have you calling and having council call. We want to be proactively on top of that. So that's one of the things we can go back and look at and see what's currently addressed in the contract, if there's anything else we need to do to tighten that up or decrease the timing if need be.
Yeah, on that note, I do want to say that anytime there has been a communication, it has been addressed. So anytime I've called Crystal, it gets handled. So I do know that it does get handled from that standpoint. I think that's the question, is how can we, get ahead of it before it becomes a...
We want to stay ahead of it as well. We know there's
Yeah.
obviously some areas that probably get hit a little bit more frequently than we'd like to see. We're constantly either repainting or exchanging them out. But I'll look at the timing in terms of making sure that that's within the timeframe.
So is this something that then would come back with
I
this?
can, what I need to do, I don't have the agreement in front of
Okay.
me just to confirm what that time frame is, but there is, once we are aware, we're notified, and we proactively look for it as well. There's a time frame we had to make sure that graffiti's removed.
Okay.
And that
And when,
service is
within
included in
normal
the-
business.
And that's already
included
included.
in the price.
That's already included now, so I just don't recall the time frame off. I'd have to look at it for you to confirm.
And Victor, while you have the floor, why don't you ask the other question you
Let
asked
me
me about?
follow up with that.
Okay.
I'm still on this.
Right.
So, my knowledge is that all the drivers are supposed to have your blue and spray cans on the truck.
A route supervisor does, some of the drivers do as well. Depending on what the type of container is, if it's not something they have available, we can also do exchanges on the containers as well. So
Yeah, but it's
maybe
too bad.
paying in the field, exchanges, or a combination.
But to Victor saying he has, in his area, he has the top 10 trash cans, I guess, is that what you would say, the top 10? He's always complaining, and I hear about him all the time. But if the drivers run out of the paint and they don't restock it on their trucks, because my understanding is every driver has cans of paint on the truck, so
Blue paint.
when they dump it, they see it, hey, it's up there, you can't miss it.
We have it
Yeah.
available, yes.
Yeah.
So the other question too is.
So are they doing it?
If there's an area that is
Yeah.
routinely hit, maybe there's some other things we can look at in terms of what we can do to help with abatement.
I think that what I'm trying to get to is that it shouldn't fall on us.
Agreed. Like, we are looking,
Yeah.
always looking to proactively take
Right.
care of that as well. Absolutely.
Because that means that our staff have to go out there and
Mhm.
look for it.
Mhm.
And, you know, the trash haulers are already there. They're picking it up every week, so they see it. And that's it. That's, you know, I think that's just how do we get,
Could it be a problem that it gets graffiti on a weekend and then their pickup is next Friday and it's there and you see it for the next 5 days?
could be.
It might be the problem. Yeah.
To your point, there could be a timing factor of when it occurs and when we're actually there seeing it. But it's something we continually remind the drivers, make sure they're proactively looking for it. We have a supervisor out there also as well to be able to follow up and make sure.
And if you have a trash enclosure, you'll never see graffiti. There's some businesses that don't have a trash enclosure. Maybe we need, as code enforcement, was there a trash enclosure ever there? I think it's in our code. You can't have trash cans in view, commercial or residential. Maybe some of it's on us.
Ray, have you ever seen anybody use a blue can of spray paint on a graffiti-covered can? Have you ever seen a CR&R driver use that method?
No.
Me either. Have you, Victor? How about you, Sonny?
No, just a follow-up question. Do you see the trash containers on the street or
You see them when they're out in the street, yeah.
full bag? Oh, okay.
Sometimes on the street, sometimes
Okay.
from like Park Street, Beach Street.
Uh, Well, hopefully also,
So-
since we're gonna have the second bulk item pickup crew, they can go around, they can see those things. So we're gonna have more staff going out.
Okay, you had a second question. All right.
Multifamily? Was there a
We had,
question you had?
so we're gonna talk about the change of the bins, your containers. How do you accomplish that? Where do you call? How do you get them? And when does that go into effect?
For the residential, I think
Correct.
this is back
Yeah,
to
for the reduced
Councilmember
carts.
Morris. So this will go into effect September 1st. And you can simply call in to be able to schedule if you'd like to have a smaller cart. So what we did with this process was to have basically a tiered rate structure. So residents can take advantage of, if maybe they're not generating as much waste that they normally did, they're doing better in their recycling and their organics collection, you can reduce that trash cart size. Most everybody has that 95 gallon, which is the current rate that was listed up here, the 2913. You can reduce that down to a 65 or a 35 gallon. And that is a discount off the current rate. And it's based on your trash cart size. So you do have the flexibility. You can still have a larger container for recycling. So if you have a lot of packaging boxes, anybody that's ordering Amazon or anything like that, or delivery service, you certainly have the ability to be able to use a larger recycling container, but that rate's gonna be dictated on your trash cart. To schedule it, just simply call our customer service center. You can schedule it. The rate will go into effect in accordance with the change in the Prop 218. With that update, those new rates would go into effect September 1st.
But you won't have the smaller cart versions available to when you're gonna recart the whole city.
So those would be available, and that goes into the whole implementation process when we develop the plan. So there's a lot of education in terms of timing, opportunity for you to be able to select a cart size if you'd like one versus having your standard. So that all goes into the rollout process. So we'll be working through that plan and develop that. So residents will have another opportunity to be able to select, if they want to, a smaller container.
So after this contract goes into effect, if it gets that far, God willing, the carts, just because TV Land might be calling you all tomorrow, I want that smaller cart. You don't have them right now. They're gonna be ordered with the other 90-gallon new carts.
Yes, we will be ordering them. That
when
will
they
be,
roll out
we
the
will
same
have it part
time.
of the rollout. So,
Let's give them the contract first.
But they
Yeah.
can pre-order. Well,
So-
you're gonna get calls, we're on TV.
but if somebody now is interested, or somebody that
Got it.
currently already has a smaller size, that 65-gallon size, which we do have some residents that are already using that smaller
Okay.
trash cart size. Once the rates, once approved, and they go into effect on 9/1, they would get that lower rate for that card.
But you do have some 65 now,
We do
but
have
not the
some
35s.
available. Yeah,
Okay, got
we
it.
do have a few 35s, but
Okay.
not as many.
Gotcha. Okay.
Wendy, have your questions been answered about the size and shape and?
Yes, just so I can just follow up, I believe you said, though, that we as residents will get a notification that we have options
Yes, in the future.
at that time.
Yes, that's going to be part of the whole process in terms of actually putting out all new carts for your new trash, recycling, organics for all the residents that have currently their residential cart service. So there'll be communication about that process, when it's going to occur, cart selection, all those.
Yes, my questions was answered.
Ray, you had some questions on the building on 218. Was that properly addressed?
Yeah, that was probably addressed, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So Sonny, have you developed any other questions from this?
I have the question earlier, the reason for advanced billing for commercial.
Uh-huh. That's something that's usually very standard in the industry. We usually have advanced billing, but advanced billing meaning we're billing the current month. So, for example, on July 1st, we're typically billing for July services. We currently already do that now for residential services. We
right,
bill 2 months in advance. So that's why we requested to have everybody on a similar cycle, including commercial multifamily that have been serviced.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And with that, to note that we've added an additional 30-day grace period as well in terms of any.
Oh,
That's
okay.
good.
Yeah.
Well, that's
So
good to
just-
know.
I don't know if that was made aware, so we did add that as well.
No, we didn't know that.
Now, we have
Yes.
concerns for that as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And there was a couple of questions, maybe somewhat questions or just comments overall about in terms of the rate structure for commercial and those multifamily customers that have been serviced in regards to the changes. So what we're doing is also leveling out anybody with recycling or organic services, whether it be a bin or a cart, they're all gonna be at the same discount level. So that's why you're seeing a little bit of a change where some of the customers that have organic service, whether a bin or cart, those rates are going down. The recycling services are going slightly up. So they're balancing out. So everyone, under all the new regulations for 1383 with requirements to have recycling, including organics, we want to make sure it was a level playing field. Everyone has the same discount for those services that you need to comply with the state requirement. Just to clarify a little bit of that.
Any other
And
questions?
it's strictly only on, this is only impacting recycling organics. Trash rates currently are staying the same. There's no adjustment to trash rates.
Very good. I have two other
go ahead.
questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that CRNR, traditionally, you have partnered with our Parks and Rec Department for the neighborhood beautification programs. Is that program stay intact?
Yes,
Okay, wonderful.
yes. No changes to that program at all.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then I brought up earlier, and I know Mr. Gorecki kind of clarified a little bit on the rate change for the multifamily. I like the 5% cap concept that you're proposing. On the multifamily, is there a way to reduce that to a 5% cap and bring multifamily at 5% and then 15% commercial?
So the way the rates are going to be calculated moving forward with the whole new CPI, and the whole purpose was to simplify this. There was a comment made about the fuel indexes and different components that are used, and obviously, so those of us have seen it, there's been a lot of volatility in the fuel index. Want to be able to smooth that out. You're not seeing a lot of fluctuations, either high or low, and a lot of other areas we're working for is just have a flat CPI. So that's been, it just helps smooth out some of that volatility, what was existing in the current, having all these different components. So the way the CPI works, it's based on a certain index for a certain time period. It's capped, so no matter what CPI comes in, you're capped at that 5%. Nothing can increase over that. There's a cap
Right,
and a
and
floor.
that would be moving
So I
forward.
think-
And that's
think
for
y- yeah.
everything in terms of commercial, multifamily, the whole entire rate structure, all the rates.
Right, and that's moving forward after the first change, right?
Correct, correct.
On
I
this
think
first
what
change,
he's saying
would there
is
be-
this first push of new rates on September 1st, we have the 2 and 3 yard commercial recycle rates are adjusting up by a little over 15%
Right.
in stuff. So I think what he's
Yeah.
saying is it possible to cap that at 5%?
For the multifamily.
For the multifamily.
At the end of the day, my concern is the owner, the landlord, is going to pass that cost down onto the residents, right? And the resident.
Commercial does too.
Well, that's true. That's
It's on
true.
Every restaurant, every store, everything.
No, I know that's true.
That's what state of California does. Lets the businesses
Right.
Well,
be
one of-
absolutely.
One of the
tax
things we're,
collectors and let the customers pay.
Right, I understand
That's
that.
how it
and
works.
Like, for example, the resident, the individual single-family resident won't have an increase. I'm just
So what we're
asking
looking
here.
overall, and
Is there
some of the
room to lower
differences in
that?
terms of the single-family versus some of the commercial multifamily areas in terms of participation. So all the single-family has all the three-cart system in terms of recycling, trash, and organics. One of the things we're working through for the multifamily commercial side is to make sure that everyone's also in compliance with 1383, that they have the three-container type of program. So with that, a lot of times, we don't necessarily get the participation. They may elect to have the lowest level of program for maybe either recycling or organics. So with that service, it's offered at a discount. So the whole incentive is what we can do is to reduce the amount of trash, what recycling organics is ending up in the trash container, which can be offset by actually reducing services. So that may be a smaller size container, or it could be even reducing the number of pickups if we're gaining more participation, which is our goal, is to make sure they're participating in the organics and recycling program. So,
And so those options will be provided then?
absolutely.
Okay.
And that's been part of our outreach as we're working through, and we have a dedicated recycling coordinator that's out there following up in terms of outreach, providing proposals, taking a look at service levels to see what we can do to right size and help, obviously, make sure keep those.
The
any of those
coordinator
costs
that you
minimal.
mentioned, is that coordinator working with the landlords specifically, directly with them, or the the property managers?
Yes, property manager, landlord, whomever may own the property or responsible for the property in terms of handling services.
And are they proactive? Just curious, are they proactively?
Yeah, so we're working in collaboration, outreach on what's required in terms of the law, follow-up phone calls, outreach with the site, make sure they have information. So whether it be the property manager, landlord, whoever it may be, they have information to understand how to participate in the program, information they can share with their residents on how to participate in the program. And then we're constantly doing reminders as well, so in a variety of different ways.
That opens up another topic for me, but not for this. I don't think it's for tonight, but it's kind of going back to the previous comment of Councilmember Sunny Santinez about enforcement. You know, if you have this coordinator who's working with these property managers and working with these landlords, you know, and communicating all this stuff, especially the bulky item services that are available, why aren't they being exercised? And so I think that's a conversation of enforcement for down the road. Okay. No, thank you. I appreciate your time, Crystal, and
Absolutely.
thank you always for your responsiveness and just, I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr.
And
Mayor.
I think, did I hit everybody's questions? I know we talked a little bit more about, but I just want to make sure I hit everybody's questions.
I think so.
Why don't you give us a synopsis of the equipment, how the equipment program's gonna come? Like, you know, one of my pet peeves was the hydraulic hoses breaking in front of all the residents' house here and there, and they got this oil spot to deal with because we all know accidents happen. They can have a new part that hydraulic hose that blows, and some of the hauling vehicles leak some of the trash ooze out of the seals and stuff like that. But I think you got a good program. Just explain it to TV Land if you would.
We
please.
do. So first off, we're going to be replacing older vehicles. So we have a replacement schedule that's included in the amendment. So you will be getting a total of 8 new vehicles over the course of the next 3 years. In addition to that, we have a maintenance and safety program. So it's one of the things we're always looking at addressing is proactively looking at all the hoses. There's a routine inspection that's done. We're even actually looking at some technology in terms of an alert type system. Hasn't been thoroughly tested yet, but everything we're doing to obviously prevent any type of hydraulic spill or fluid leak in the first place. So we have a set replacement schedule, constantly looking at all the different components in terms of the hydraulic systems, not only just the arm, but other areas that operate that are operated by hydraulics in the vehicle as well. So it's through a constant monitoring process. So that's one of the things we're proactively doing. And then looking at some other solutions in the future with some of the newer vehicles if there's an opportunity to get an alert system. So
And then the painting of the trucks. You know,
painting of the trucks as well.
Yeah.
We know
It's not just trash trucks.
Not just trash trucks, but painting as well. We obviously want to make sure that the fleet looks nice and looks wonderful out there on the streets in the city of Bellflower. And so in addition to new vehicles, there's the set 5-year in terms of repainting. So there's also the opportunity, if the city sees it, in addition to the schedule, we just want to make sure that the whole vehicles are looking nice and clean while they're out there providing service in the city.
Good
I
job.
think we've
Thank
covered
you.
it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to invite the public to come forward, and if we'll have you stand by so that there may be a question we can't answer that you can help us with. So anybody that would like to come forward that may have developed a question that we didn't handle, now's the time to come forward if you have any concerns.
I just have one item I brought up a few years back. And it's, it has to do more with the street sweeping part. Which, why don't you entertain the thought of putting your traffic part over to the street sweeper? Talk to them about putting a camera on the front of the truck instead of, we can be downsizing government employment. Instead of hiring somebody to chase that street sweeper around every morning and paying the benefits and the taxes and the money and the retirement, why not put it over to the street sweeper? He does the same thing. He's gathering the ticket of instant ticket there for you, and you're saving nothing but money and lessening the problems too. And especially when the street sweeper guy forgets to wake up, and then he tries to hide out and stuff. So now you got it on the truck, you got the camera on the man's truck. He's doing your work for you. Now you've saved a whole bunch of money. And I brought this up 3-4 years ago, but everybody kind of ignores it. It's time to downsize government.
Thank you, John. Anybody else have any insights they'd like to share? Good evening.
Good evening,
Hi, Bernice.
Mayor Bernice Cristerna. I just wanted to, I kind of noticed the rates, and I wanted to see how they're determined for our city because they're not the lowest and they're not close to being the lowest. So it's a little bit concerning that we're way higher than even Cerritos. And Cerritos is, you know, relatively better economically, right? So I would like to know how the prices are determined for our city because I felt even though we're not the highest, we're far from being the lowest. And I want to see how that is determined in terms of the rates. So if anybody could explain that or give us some information on how that is determined. Commercial as well. I own a commercial facility as well. And I believe we're really, really high, in my opinion, for being the city of Bellflower. I love their service. I call them very often. I really appreciate you guys attentiveness towards the business and residential. Also, in regards to the most, when we receive that recycling, and can you gentlemen be a little bit quiet? Thank you. When we receive that, I've noticed I live by the dog park right on Flora Vista, and when we received it a couple of years back, they just left piles and piles and piles of mountains of it. They took months to have somebody, a couple of employees from Bellflower, spread it out and make it look semi-decent. So my concern is when we receive that, who's in charge of throwing it or putting it or placing it in areas? And how is it then instead of looking nice, it's just accumulated there for months? And I think that it's Bellflower, the name of it says it all. We need to make sure that our city looks beautiful and to represent the name. So I'm just curious about that information and want to make sure who's in charge of it because last time I did come to the city because I caught a couple of employees on the phone for more than 30 minutes at 10 a.m. and I took video and everything and I presented it to the city. But, you know, it's just the workers to me seem a little bit lazy and they could be a little bit more productive. So I just wanted to make sure on that. I'm just curious about the rates and how it's determined, and also when we receive this product, who's responsible of making it, you know, look nice and basically the city not have mountains of it accumulated in places. Thank you.
Glenn, would you like to address?
Yeah, Honorable Mayor and Councilmembers. I'm going to pull this chart back up because this will give you a stark example of kind of a little bit what Bernice is talking about here. So a lot of times when you pull these surveys, cities are not done with their implementation of their latest rate schedules and all that. What there's been a big shift in the last couple years is this requirement to, because of the 1383, the state mandates for the organics and the recycling, they have made the rates across the board increase significantly. I think to our benefit, we were ahead of this well before. We were one of the first cities in the southeast LA County to roll out the multi-bin cycles and get that program going. So we were on top of it. We adjusted these rates a couple years ago. So we went through this process of increasing our rates for these, which is why you see it so high. You look at Paramount, and this is just an example. Paramount just approved their rates last month. So their $172.33 was not inclusive of their organics or the recycling. The program, the rate that they approved last month, including the recycles and organics, increased that rate to $330. So Paramount actually just moved us one step closer down. So to Bernice's point, when you look at a chart like this, you're not always comparing apples and apples. So when you're looking at other cities do programs completely different. You know, so we're very heavy on the bulky item. That's a council directive, and that's reflected over the way we've grown our rates. Then you have some cities that don't have to chase bulky items at all. You know, so you just kind of have there's no one contract that is identical to another city's contract. Everything is kind of customized to what that community's needs are and the council's direction. So again, Paramount's rates just went nearly doubled, if not doubled, and went a little more. So in this category, the commercial yard trash bin 1 time a week, they're now running the rate of $330, and that was just approved 2 weeks ago. So it's kind of all over the place. It's the point in time when you're doing these rate surveys. I'm fairly confident that what we've done for our commercial rates, and again, because like I said, a couple years ago was when we actually rolled out the 1383 requirements, as well as the other recycling requirements. At that point in time, we did increase the rates in accordance with what they needed to be to add those services. And the only thing we've done to that since that time is adjusted them based on the CPI index. So I think our rates are middle of the road, and we're getting the bang for the buck for our programs that we have under these rates. Secondly, the mulch. So what actually goes out on the bike trail by the dog park is just wood chips. It's leftover wood chips and trimmings from West Coast arborists. Bernice is correct. So sometimes West Coast arborists will come in, they're trimming in town, and what they'll do is they'll bring their truck and they'll dump like 3, 4, 5 big giant piles out there. Everybody sees them in the morning time. They have a lot of steam coming off them and everything just because of the organic material. I don't necessarily have staff readily available, so they will sit there for a time. Sometimes we're able to grab the front loader, go out right away and knock them down. Again, that falls under me in my department. I'll become a little more aware of when these piles are placed out there, and I'll certainly have my guys address them sooner rather than later. The compost mulch that's being discussed in the procurement is completely separate from wood chips. That material will not be going out onto the bike trail. It's more kind of left for grass toppings in our park, the flower beds. It's a lot more delicate. The state requires us to buy a certified compost or mulch, so I can't just go to any of the local BD soil or fertilizer companies that are in this area and purchase compost. That's not how it happens. The state is requiring us to purchase from certified. Lucky for us, CR&R is a certified wholesaler of that compost material, so we don't have to go too far for it. But that is, in essence, what that material is. It's different. It's different material, it's different sizes, it won't be going out in the bike trail. But to what Bernice brought to my attention about the piles, I'll certainly stay on top of that a little more diligently and make sure our crews, when they're being dumped out there, that they get on top of those piles quick and get them knocked down.
So would it be safe to say, as Bernice indicated, that Cerritos has a lower rate than we do, if we can believe the chart? You know, I know that's kind of a moving target as far as what.
Correct.
But because Cerritos has an environment that doesn't have nearly as many bulk item pickups because they don't have nearly the apartments we have, we're all paying a little bit more to maintain a semblance of order in the high apartment density areas.
And I haven't looked at Cerritos' contract, but they may not have incorporated the commercial side of the SB 1383 yet. Cities are just required this year to get the commercial and multifamilies incorporated in 2024. Some cities have done it, some haven't yet. So Cerritos just may not have not done it yet. I would think that given that Athens is running the Cerritos contract and Athens is also running the Paramount contract, that they're probably not going to be too far apart in what their rate structures are for that commercial organic recycling. So,
Mr. Mayor, it's also worth noting the services side of this and what you're getting for the dollar that you're paying. And those communities may not have street sweeping rolled into this contract. You may have that under a separate contract that's being paid for. So you're still paying that cost somewhere. You may just not be paying it in that rate. I can say for those Athens contracts, they probably still are working through those things because a lot of those Athens cities were transitioned over from CalMet as CalMet sold to Athens. That's why those things are just now happening. So they probably are still a little bit behind.
Correct, Mr. Mayor. I think I'd like to add on that. I believe Norwalk does not have the street sweeper included in the trash, and that's a neighbor, and that's 231. I for a fact know that.
So yeah, they're all different components, and that's how we come up with different time values, equipment values, sweeping, bulky item pickups. Everything's different. How about Sonny?
Mr. Mayor, if I recall correctly, in the old contract with CRNR, street sweeping wasn't included. It was included only in this 2 contracts ago.
Right.
That's my recollection.
Right.
So.
It wasn't always part of this.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So things change.
Right. So Bernice, I hope that answers a few of your questions. You're going to keep those piles knocked down so you don't look like you're.
Oh, can I just ask one more thing?
Sure you can.
On the, I don't know how to say it very well, but the mulch, is it? I remember a couple of years back, they had some advertisement for us to go as residents and pick up for free.
Yep.
Right.
Will you guys be having that again
4 times
for
a year.
us?
yeah,
4 times
well,
a year?
currently we do it 2 times a year. With
Okay.
this new amendment, we'll be doing it 4 times a year.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
so-
And then just to make sure, I see different companies as well. How do you guys go about on electing the proper contract for the city for the best interest of the residents and the commercial owners? How do you guys, because I see Athens, Republic, CRNR, that way we as the customers are getting the best deal. Thank you.
So again, typically what happens is you can start from scratch and go through an RFP process and basically test the free market in terms of trash service and see what those rates will bear for the community. I think while it's good to try to recognize and see what that market brings you, there's also some bad in it, in that you really have no idea what those rates are going to come in at. So when you're putting it out there for everybody you're giving them a sheet and a list of criteria and telling them to give you pricing for this, you're really making a throw of the dice to see what's out there, versus what we've been doing here the last couple of years. And the last couple of years has been really important because the state trash service was completely different 6 years ago compared to how it is now, the entire industry. The state has implemented several mandates, recycling mandates, that require the process of trash collection to be completely revamped and more succinct in terms of, you know, source separating the materials, what's just regular trash versus recycling versus organic green matter. So the state has implemented these requirements that have inevitably and unfortunately added an increase in the cost of service. So what we've looked at the last couple times we've done the amendment to the contract is, you know, is it more beneficial to utilize the service already being provided by somebody, by a firm that has historically offered lower rates, and they've come in with very good plans on how to implement these new programs, these new requirements, and they've come in with you know, ideal, if not necessarily ideal, but good pricing formulas for that, you know, competitively speaking, then you look at the idea of just amending the contract, which is what we've done in the last couple years here. So there's no true and tried way of doing it. It's a gamble both directions, but as you can see from the rates here and what we've shown in our partnership with CR&R has kind of always kept us in the middle of the road in terms of the rates. You know, one cycle we may be a couple higher or a couple lower, but we're never the highest, and we're certainly not the lowest. But I think it's always been a good deal for the city, and because of that, we've continued to try to work with CR&R by amending the agreement as opposed to starting brand new with the new waste hauler.
Thank you, Lynn. Anybody else have any questions of what we're doing here on the contract? Yes, sir.
So I have a quick question to CR&R regarding street sweeping. Every Wednesday on Woodruff Place, the scout truck comes and pulls out about 12 dumpsters onto the street, and then shortly thereafter, the street sweeper comes through and drives around all the dumpsters and cleans the streets. So if we're talking about keeping the streets clean and cul-de-sacs and whatnot, is this just how it is because of scheduling, or is this something that can maybe be addressed where the street sweeper gets there a little earlier before the scout truck comes and pulls all the trash cans out into the street? Thank you.
A viable question.
Well, we can certainly address that. That sounds like a scheduling. So in terms of the area, if it's being posted for street sweeping, there's a certain time frame. We can look at when we're pulling bins out for that particular area. It sounds like there's some customers that have scout service, so I'd love to be able to get the information on what block we're talking about, and we can certainly address that. That sounds like a timing issue.
I think there's only one Artesia Place in Bellflower, isn't there?
No, Woodruff Place.
Woodruff Place.
Yeah, it's just Somerset down to where it dovetails.
Woodruff Place.
Woodruff Place.
I'll provide it to you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
but it's just one area. And
Yeah.
A lot of apartments.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you can fix it.
That's something we can address.
All right. Any other questions? All right, so I think we're to the point now where I'd ask if there's a motion for what we have in front of us. What we're doing here is saying that it's okay to propose a notice of public hearing for the proposed adjustments to the maximum rates. So we're not awarding the contract, we're just putting out the numbers.
The recommendation is actually approve the amendment to the contract and authorize us to put out that 218 process, yeah.
So
The reason we do
Mr.
that,
Mayor, how do we want to, and City Manager, how do we want to handle the graffiti item? Because I'd like to know what that's going to be like, what the proposal will be.
Does that need to be an amendment to what we already have here? We kind of understand what's needed, but I think he wants to have it in writing, correct?
Correct. I think what we heard here from CR&R is, and as well as the council, is that that service is inclusive and it shouldn't be bared by any kind of a rate increase whatsoever. And I think we're all in agreement upon that. I believe the recommended action gives the city manager the authority to make any kind of technical adjustments to the contract. So
I
what
can live
we'll
with
do
that.
is we'll pull that language tomorrow and take a look at it and see how specific it is in terms of timing of the graffiti abatement on the bins. And then if there's any small tweaks or anything we need to add into it, the city manager has the authority to make those technical changes.
I can live with that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
it won't be forgotten.
Mr. Mayor, are you waiting for a motion?
Yeah, I wonder why everybody's so bashful all of a sudden.
Well, it's a big contract.
It is, but
Okay.
I
but-
think it's
but anyway,
inevitable, you know.
I'd like to make a motion for the City Council of Bellflower to authorize the city manager to execute amendment number 3 to agreement file number 399-.2 for solid waste collection services in a form approved by the city attorney, and approve the notice of public hearing and authorize city manager to make technical changes in a form approved by the city attorney.
I'll second.
All right. All right, so we have a motion by Councilmember Sunny Sandinez, supported by Councilmember Wendy Morris. Please poll the council.
Mayor Pro Tem Dutton,
Aye.
Councilmember Morse,
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Aye.
Councilmember Santinas,
Aye.
Mayor Coops.
Aye. Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Trying to get buy-in other than the ad hoc committee, and it was hard.
Yeah. Mr. Smoot, 13B, consideration of items.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Brian is going to go ahead and present this one, but I'll start out while they're shuffling around. This is a 5-year contract with the Sheriff's Department. It's the standard Master Law Enforcement Services Agreement that we have every 5 years with them. Having said that, this one is slightly different than some of the ones we've had in the past. I sat on a committee formed by the Contract Cities Association of city managers representing various areas to negotiate some of the amendments that Brian's going to go through, and some of the liability, and discuss some of the liability questions that are still ongoing with the county, to see if we can start to make some amendments to the sheriff's agreement, overarching, that might make some improvements in the long run. So with that, I'm going to let Brian take over and do the presentation. I'll jump in if you have questions.
Thank you, Mr. Smoot. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, it's my pleasure this evening to be presenting our 5-year renewal with the County of Los Angeles for the Agreement for Public Safety Services. The last one we did was in 2019, and prior to that, 2014. So the agreement renewal is going to be for the Municipal Law Enforcement Services Agreement. It's going to be, for short, the MLESA, which is going to be between the County of Los Angeles and the City of Bellflower for public safety services. These services are provided specifically by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. The duration of this agreement will be 5 years, with the new expiration being June 30th, 2029, if approved. And as Mr. Smoot already indicated, the agreement itself is negotiated between the California Contract Cities Association, which is a subcommittee that was formed of various city managers, and they're the ones that negotiate the actual contract with the county itself. As we go through some changes, there were a handful that were made. I'll be going over some of them here. So first and foremost, we have the agreement performance will be by service unit rather than overall deployment. The target compliance is going to be between 98% and 102% of contracted minutes. That aspect is not changing within this agreement. Previously, the compliance percentages were calculated using one measure overall. The change which is being made is at the service unit level. So some may ask, what is a service unit? Service unit are the actual line items that we contract for. So for example, patrol, special assignment deputies, motor unit. We also have a grant deputy on hand. So those are the specific line items that we actually contract for. What the past practice is the county would look at each service unit, and let's say hypothetically, I'll just give this as an example. Let's say the patrol services came in for 1 month at 97% compliance. which would be short of what the contracted agreement requires. But say then that same month our SAO deputies came in at 104%. They would average that out, and that 104% would bring up the 97%. That's no longer going to be the case. So this is a good benefit to the contract cities, as we now get to see where each specific service unit lies, and they now have to ensure that every single specific service unit falls within that compliance structure every single month. So that's going to be a benefit there.
So a 40-hour car will be a 40-hour car?
Yes.
Wow.
No longer a 35-hour car.
Yeah. I was getting tired of that math. When you pay for a 40-hour car and you don't get it, it kind of...
And to that end, where they try to do is they will make up for it in the following months, which is not necessarily something that we're seeking because we want the service when we're paying for it. Another change is going to be retaining a vehicle of a deleted service unit. Right now, the agreement requires a city which adds a new resource, as example, an SAO deputy, which requires the use of a vehicle. The city will incur the expense for the additional vehicle for that specific deputy for their need in the field. The change which is being made is that a city can regain access to that vehicle, which was procured when the new deputy resources was added, when that unit is deleted and then restored within 24 months. That's an increase from 12 months. So if we add a unit and that that addition requires us to obtain a vehicle, and then for some hypothetical reason we then delete that unit for some reason, we technically would lose the use of that vehicle unless we retain that item back within 24 months. Then we get that vehicle back.
Brian? So the vehicle, we're purchasing it now and we are owning it?
Well, we don't technically own it.
Yeah.
Part of the contract requires us to purchase the vehicle, and then the county retains the ownership.
That sounds like a deal.
When we add a service,
Yes.
for instance, if you add a motor deputy, for instance, you wind up purchasing the motorcycle at the beginning of that service, assuming that deputy is going to use that for a period of time. If you happen to delete that out of your contract, that motorcycle would go off into the ether and perhaps be used at another station in another service area. Now we're saying, if we go back and add that in, we don't have to purchase another vehicle. We don't want to have to buy a motorcycle twice if it's within that 2-year period. This came from a couple of cities that had that situation where their contract was fluctuating, had some volatility in it, and they didn't want to have to purchase those vehicles over and over and over again. It's not something that we face regularly because our contract doesn't fluctuate that much. And right now,
Because they don't let
nobody's
us add
adding
anyone.
service units anyway, so.
Okay, but the patrol cars are gonna stay the same. When we get a patrol deputy and how many hours we purchase, we get the car.
Correct.
Or it's their car, we just get the package.
Yeah.
But the SAOs are not the package anymore, come with a vehicle, so we gotta.
Correct. So when,
It's
as an example,
It's an
when
à la
we-
carte issue. You pay for the vehicle from the sheriff department and then the SAO.
Yes. So
There's two different prices there.
yes. As an example, when we added 2 new SAOs, I believe it was 2 years ago, we had to purchase a vehicle that first year.
Yeah, we do that,
for them,
say
yes.
the truck.
Yep.
That's our truck, though.
Oh, well, the truck
Yeah.
is a slightly different thing.
That's
Yeah,
a
the
different
truck is
thing.
actually City of Bellflower property.
Yeah,
yes.
that's, okay. What was drawing this question out is the radios that are installed in it. That's why I was asking this, because the sheriff has their own stuff in it in these cars, and we have different stuff. And so when we get that car for the SEO, it's gonna have sheriff compliance.
It'll have all county equipment, yes.
Okay, that's it, thanks.
A couple more changes are going to be the transfer of city property to the county. The change being made here, it now requires written agreements must be made between the sheriff contract city stations and the city, detailing all of the non-vehicle city equipment transferred to the county. That, for example, that could be ALPR cameras on some of the squad cars. At times it could be radios, but that doesn't happen too often. Also, equipment replacement. The change being made here is additional language is being added to the agreement, which requires the county to make its, quote, best effort in providing a temporary replacement for original equipment which takes more than 60 days to be returned into service. So one of the larger items that was of discussion within the agreement and is still ongoing, which I'll get to momentarily, is the liability trust fund. As a quick background to that, beginning in 1997, there was the assumption of liability created. The county established a fund to cover the liability costs associated with contract services. Then in 1991, there was a joint indemnity agreement That is the structure of the current liability trust fund, which was created, which transferring the responsibility for liability and settlement payments to this fund, which is fully funded by contract cities. And then in 2009, you have the special indemnity agreement where the county and contract cities agreed to split liability and funding equally for certain cases where felony convictions or other criminal convictions occurred, which resulted in a settlement being paid out from the fund.
We've been doing this since '77?
The current structure of the liability since '91.
Okay, that slide had 1977 on it, that's why. You said 97, so.
No, 1977 was the assumption of
Okay,
liability
got
created.
it. Okay, I heard 97.
I did too.
That's why I was questioning.
sorry.
Yeah.
Didn't know if that was a typo or not.
1977. Then you have the liability trust fund. Basically, what is it? It's a county account which is funded by the contract cities to reimburse the county for costs related to litigation settlements as part of the MLESA agreement operations. And the point of contention, which has been a point of contention for many years, is going to be the fact that contract cities have no authority to govern over the actions to reduce liability, and yet we are covering the entire funding of that liability fund. For example, us as contract cities, we have no say over the training of the deputies. We have no say over the supervision of the deputies, no say over the disciplinary action, no say over the hiring of deputies, yet we assume all the liability when it comes to this trust fund. And that's one thing that is being looked at of the subcommittee group, which is still working with the county. They didn't make a change, but they made an agreement with the county that they're going to continue their conversation with them to restructure this liability trust fund. So while I say no guarantee of a change is recognized, it's positive from my viewpoint, and I'm sure Mr. Spoot might have something to add as well, that there's at least ongoing conversations regarding the restructuring of the liability trust fund, which will be beneficial in the long run to the contract cities and the city of Bellflower.
This was a discussion that from the very beginning of meeting with our contract cities group, we suggested to the county, let's carve out the liability question and start to deal with the rest of the points in the agreement, because this agreement, this 5-year agreement, is coming up in July. And we started this process in late last year, mid last year, at least talking internally among our group, and we agreed that that was probably a longer conversation that we needed to have with the county, because the liability that we have associated with the Sheriff's Department has been increasing significantly and a lot over the last number of years, to the point that it's becoming unsustainable. The liability trust fund is having trouble going out and getting the excess insurance that they need to pay out some of the payouts that the county is approving on our behalf, and we have no say in that. So there's certainly a challenge that collectively between the contract cities and the county needs to be addressed, and I think everybody's recognizing that. It's a question of where does that liability rightly get placed, and it's a separate conversation that's going to be had. And JPIA is involved in that, contract cities is involved in that. A subgroup of our group of city managers is working on that issue specifically, and that subgroup includes folks that are on that liability trust fund, so they're fully aware of these issues. So that is ongoing.
So with that, that concludes the changes being made to the agreement and moves to what we're seeking tonight from the City Council. We're looking for the approval of resolution number 2437, which will be authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Los Angeles County for law enforcement services between July 1st, 2024 and June 30th, 2029. Also, the city manager or designee is authorized to make budget or operational changes to meet the public safety interests of the city. Thirdly, the city manager is authorized to request the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors or its designated agency to approve and authorize the performance of services requested subject to the terms and conditions in the MLESA agreement, or alternatively discuss and take other action as necessary. So with that, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions, should there be any.
Ms. Morris, any questions?
Not at the moment.
Mr. Dutton? You already asked.
I know I did. Yeah. I think it's a win if we're going to get a 40-hour car for 40 hours.
All right, Dutton's happy. Yeah, happier.
And just what people don't know what that liability trust fund is, all the cities chip in, we have a fee, it's almost like a joint powers agreement. It's when the sheriff department gets sued, we pay. That's why, we're the insurance company that pays the settlements. All the cities do in this area, all 28 cities or whatever, well, it's sheriff's department cities. Yeah, 43, oh, thank you. Yeah, but we have no say. But, okay, that's it.
All right, Victor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, first off, I'll say that that information of it staying within the proper category, I think that's a good win. Obviously, I mean, you know, some of my hairs in the back of my neck kind of go up because some of this language, I just I would never agree to something like this. For example, the transfer of city property to the county, I mean, or the liability fund, but unfortunately, that's the way it's currently being operated. I'm glad to hear the news. I know that it's been in the works with the city managers and all the other parties to try to figure out a solution to that, because it's not sustainable. And I say this with all due respect. I know that the three of us recently went to these trainings, and look, I give them respect. I think the men and women that are doing the work on the field, they deserve it. They work hard. They put their lives on the line. I understand all that. It's just when I read from a business perspective, the way that this is written out, there's certain things here I would wish we could push back on. And I'll leave it at that. But I am happy with the change in the units. That is a big win, and we have to acknowledge that win, and looking forward to what the next item on the liability fund, what that brings, because I'm glad that the conversation is happening. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Mr. Sandianez.
Thank you, Mayor. When I was reading the staff report on this, I was looking at the big picture. I know that no one is happy about the services provided by the Sheriff's Department. Let me start with that. No one is happy. But at the same time, we don't have good options. We explored going to Long Beach a few years ago.
Downey.
It will not work. We look into forming our own police department. It's not going to work, especially these days where recruiting is very, very difficult. In fact, in this year's budget, we approved 3 positions, and the Sheriff's Department cannot even fill those positions. So there's shortage of deputies, not only LA County. And then on top of that, some police departments and Sheriff's Department, they're offering signing bonuses to attract the sheriff's deputies from LA County to move to their cities, to move to their counties. So the cost will just spiral, and to even start a police department, maybe to me, is a non-starter at this point. Maybe in the future it can happen. But what's on the horizon right now is there's a big change that came in the Sheriff's Department. They now work closely with the supervisors. Unlike in the previous regime, there's so much contention, they don't work together. So I'm hoping that the supervisors will continue that path of working together with the Sheriff's Department. So I look forward to that. So having said that, I am thankful to the subcommittee of the contract cities composed of city managers working on this contract. Because from what I can gather here is, again, we don't have the best Sheriff's Department, but at the same time, if we work with them, maybe it can improve. And as mentioned earlier, there's a couple of things that really stood out. One is the service unit. This is, to me, is very significant, because in the past, they can backfill, for example, let's say, mentioned earlier, a 40-hour patrol car. If they cannot fill that, they're gonna fill it with, let's say, if they have 35-hour patrol car and they're lacking the number of hours, they'll get someone else, maybe SAO or motor vehicle, to fill that 40 hours, so they can bill us the number of hours, because they need to stay within, I think, 97% of the contract.
98 to 102.
98%. So they need to backfill those hours, and maybe those expertise are not needed at that time. So I think that's the big win in this contract. The second one is the indemnification, because I'm involved in the JPIA, which handles the liability trust fund. And what really upsets me is, why would the city pay for an act of a crime committed by a deputy, a sex crime, inside a police car? It has nothing to do with their job, and yet we pay for it. So with this kind of arrangement, hopefully we can push back that that's the liability of the county, because we have nothing to do with the supervision of the deputies. And they're committing something that is outside of their duties, like committing a crime inside a vehicle. So those kind of things. So I really, I think this is the right path forward. Again, this is not the best. The sheriff is not the best, but considering what we have at this point, what are the options we have, I think the right path is for the subcommittee to continue working with the LASD to make sure that we get the best service from the sheriff's department, and our indemnification be significantly reduced.
Thank
So,
you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So, great report, Brian. Appreciate it very much. One of your first, and you did well, and so keep up the good work. So at this time, I'm going to invite the public to come forward. Do you have any questions or comments about what you've heard about our new contract that we're thinking about for the next 5 years? Come on, please. Bernice, if you want to say something, now's your chance.
I'm sorry, Mayor. Mr. Sunny kind of explained to us, but I was actually thinking about that little nice station that we have, and how could it be more costly to hire night crew versus, you know, having all this liability, and then sometimes the service is not the best. So I was just kind of like trying to figure out. And another thing, why didn't if it has probably nothing to do with it, but my brain's just going in circles. Why didn't we get more police patrol in the city when we accepted to have a shelter put into our city, knowing that the crime was going to increase and the drugs and all those things? Why wasn't this thought of and told the state, okay, we accept a shelter in our city, but then you guys have to bring that security for our
But I don't think
residents?
we've never felt the crime increased with a shelter being in town.
Well, the problem is that sometimes I've noticed a lot of homeless on the streets more when we actually added the shelter. Some people, they're given money and you put on the computer shelters and the cities pop. And I'm pretty sure they come, and a lot of people don't want to be in shelters. A lot of people don't want to have laws. They don't want to follow, anything. They're happy living in the streets. But I was just kind of thinking, and I'm thank you for answering that. I just wanted to make sure that why wasn't that thought of when we accepted the shelter? Because to me, if I accept a shelter, I know right away that crime could be behind it. But that was my thought, that why, if we have a station that it's running, 12 hours or whatnot, why is it not a possibility of having it, the 24 hours? We have it there, it's really cute, but I guess Sunny answered my question. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to, have a motion on this item? Or we can do like
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a quick comment.
Okay.
We actually did try, and it was mentioned, we tried to add 3 more units.
Right.
We budgeted for it, and we tried, and we tried, and we
It
tried.
couldn't be provided.
And it could not be provided.
We did add them, but they just couldn't deliver.
Right. Sorry, we added them to the budget, and they couldn't deliver it. So I wanted to echo that because we did budget for it. The challenges that we have heard from our law enforcement is that there aren't a lot of people applying to be, in law enforcement. And so I think one of the call to actions that they asked us when we did the academy was, if you know someone who fits the role of a law-abiding officer, they should consider applying. Encourage it. Unfortunately, that profession is no longer seen as a profession that is respected, and that's an unfortunate part. So I think that's part of the answer that they try to, develop and share with us, right? And that's a societal concern and a society concern. That's something that we can address. I know that I've encouraged a few people. I know I've gotten at least 2 people to apply. So that's kind of the answer, is there's a shortage of professionals, realistically. So it's not that we're not trying. I'll just comment that. And with that, I'll, if it's okay, I'll make a motion.
Go for it.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2437, authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement file number 51.41 with the Los Angeles County for law enforcement services in a form approved by the city attorney. To authorize the city manager to make such budget adjustments that may be necessary to meet the expenses of the law enforcement agreement for the period July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2029. 3, authorize the city manager to execute an agreement with the Los Angeles County regarding temporary indemnity and distribution of liability in a form approved by the city attorney and not to exceed a total term of 12 months or, oh wait, that's it.
I second that motion.
You know, once we wind you up, we
Man,
can
you're
get
on a
you.
roll.
All right.
Second motion.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Victor Sanchez, supported by Councilmember Sunny Sandianez. Please poll the council.
Mayor Pro Tem Dutton,
Aye.
Councilmember Morse,
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Aye.
Councilmember Santinas,
Aye.
Mayor Coops.
Aye. All right, we made it to item 14, consent calendar. Does anyone have any conflicts on any of the consent calendar items?
No conflicts, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Are there any items you'd like to pull for separate discussion?
Move the consent calendar. Not hearing any.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Ray Dutton, supported by Councilmember Victor Sanchez. Please poll the council.
Mayor Pro Tem Dutton,
Aye.
Councilmember Morse,
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Aye.
Councilmember Santinas,
Aye.
Mayor Coops.
Aye. Council comments. Ms. Morris, have anything you want to offer tonight?
I've just enjoyed the Parks and Rec, the kickoff at Carruthers Park. I thought that was well attended. I enjoyed interacting
The
with the
movie night,
staff.
yeah.
The movie night, yeah. The kickoff at the movie night. I enjoyed playing the games that the staff came up with, personalized. It was a great night, and the first Street Fest on Thursday night. I enjoyed that
Motown,
also. Yeah, and it seemed like it was well attended.
And you went to the swim thing on Friday?
I did not end up at the swim thing. No, I had a church commitment.
Okay.
Yeah.
2 out of 3 isn't
Yeah,
bad.
2 out of 3. I will be there Thursday, though.
All right. Mr. Dutton.
With the 4th of July coming up, you heard my spiel on the citations and going after property owners. I just want to say that we have a lot of volunteers and a lot of staff and a lot of deputies that like overtime. They're going to be out there and getting you. Beware. Thank you.
Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too just want to echo and thank Parks and Rec for their hard work kicking off the summer events. Really phenomenal. Just trying new different things, especially the Carruthers Park movie night. And so with that, I just want to remind everyone that next Thursday will be the Street Fest again on the Boulevard, and also we have on Friday, July 12th, the Migration movie, and that'll be in the pool as well. So that's kind of cool. Just want to bring that up. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Sandianez.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I want to piggyback on Mayor Pro Tem Dunton's comment about illegal fireworks. I want to talk about legal fireworks. So as you know, we have 14 stalls in the city of Bellflower selling legal, sane, and safe fireworks. These are churches, service clubs, and high schools. So let's support them. If you want to fire fireworks on 4th of July, please support those 14 stalls within the city of Bellflower. And secondly, as part of the Parks and Recreation program, there'll be a movie showing on Tuesday at the rooftop of the parking structure, Barbie the movie. So I think this will be a cool experience. The first time we're gonna have this showing at the rooftop of the parking structure. So I invite everyone. Hope to see you there. Thank you, Mayor.
So I want to reiterate what was said about our kickoff on Wednesday, where we were over at Carruthers Park and showing a movie, and that really went well with all the little booths and everything set up there. And our Street Fest on Thursday night with the Motown Band really went over well. Many times our first event doesn't get that well attended. But this particular night, it was full all the way from Oak Street, where the bandstand was, all the way to Flower. And of course, Parks and Rec was there with their Bellflower Recreation in Motion. It was just a great evening. So I invite any of the citizens of Bellflower that have never gone to one of our street fests, you got to come. And you bring your lawn chair, you set up in the middle of the boulevard, and you have a great time. And it goes on, starts about 6:30, goes on about 9:30. You're safe, you meet new friends, you find ones that you never, ones that you haven't seen for a while. It's just a really great time that we enjoy during the summertime. We just started last week, and we're going to continue throughout the summer. And so as a result, I want to really invite you to that. So at this time, I'm going to adjourn the meeting to our next regular meeting of Bellflower City Council at 5:30 p.m. on Monday, July 8th, 2024. It's 9:10 in the evening, and we stand adjourned.